What the heck is a Vastaya? Let's switch this to Runeterra lore, because now we're on the lore section of the stream. Vastaya, the first playable race in the Runeterra MMO, a full lore breakdown. Children of wild magic, a definitive chronicle of the Vastaya. The dawn of chimeras, a mythic origin. To understand the Vastaya, one must understand their origin in a Runeterra where the veil between the physical and spirit realm was thin. In the primordial era, the lands now known as Ionia were called the First Lands, a continent saturated with raw and untamed spiritual magic. So keep in mind there's like two realms in Runeterra. This is the material realm, what we see. This is what we're going to be exploring in the Riot MMO. There's a whole separate realm known as the spirit realm, a separate place. It kind of mirrors the material realm. That's where demons come from. That's where Yordles come from. That's where pretty much all the magic in Runeterra comes from. The spirit realm. Anything that you see that's magical in Runeterra, that all has to do with the spirit realm. So there's the material realm. The wild magic was the lifeblood of the world, flowing in metaphysical rivers that shaped reality itself. And this is Ionia up here on the right. That's Ionia. So this is what we're talking about. It was the First Lands. And at this time, the spirit realm and the material realm were very thin. The veil was very thin between them. And the thinning of the veil allows more magic from the spirit realm to pass into the material realm. The First Lands and the Titan War. The balance of the First Lands was shattered by a cataclysmic invasion from the skies. A race of Titans waged a devastating war against mortals, threatening to sunder the world. Guys, we're talking about a long time ago. None of these nations existed. There was no Freljord. There was no Piltover and Zon, Bilgewater, Shadow Isles. This whole world, everything was really concentrated in Ionia. That's why it's called the First Lands, because that's where everyone kind of originated from. Everyone kind of moved out from Ionia to the other places. The only one that may not have been like that is the Freljord. There may have been people in the Freljord very close to around the time of the First Lands. So at that time, there was the Titan War, which is an invasion by a race of freaking sky giants. These things, you could see remnants of them in Ionia. Look how massive this guy is. It is certain Ionia had a much longer and richer history than any living soul could claim to know. Indeed, in the more remote mountain passes, the landscape is still littered with evidence of great wars from ages past. But instead of clearing the ruins, the Ionians choose to respect what remains, even if they no longer fully understand what it represents. You can see how massive these swords are. These are probably wielded by someone battling against these titans over here. The mortals, though valiant, found themselves outmatched. This conflict became the crucible in which a new race would be forged, the birth of the Vastayashai'rei. Faced with annihilation, a group of enlightened mortals, tuned to the potent magic of the spirit realm, drew in the power of the spirit realm into themselves, into the physical forms, and a profound and irreversible fusion. These mortals were born as the Vastayashai'rei, deathless, powerful shapeshifters who could command the natural world as an extension of their will. They were mortals who had achieved ascension through a perfect synthesis with spiritual magic. This is the only real image we have of the spirit realm. We have some videos where you can see like Yordles and the Bandlewoods and stuff like that. But in terms of images, this is the best image of the spirit realm that we have. And that's the golden tree of peace over here on the right, that yellow thing, that yellow tree. To the left of that, you can see kind of like a demonic looking thing. That's the demon realm. I have theories about the others, but yeah, that's the spirit realm. And the Vastayashai'rei pulled the power of the spirit realm into themselves to battle these freaking behemoths, the Titans. And this is all again taking place in Ionia. So wielding their new abilities, the Vastayashai'rei defeated the Titans, saving the world and being hailed as heroes. What that led to after that, what I call the Great Dilution, from progenitors to people. After the war, the Vastayashai'rei chose to live among their mortal kin as equals rather than setting themselves apart as rulers. Over time, these magically ascended beings interbred with the human population. The offspring of these unions were a new chimeric people who were neither fully mortal nor truly immortal. They became known as Vastaya. So on this page you can see Vastayashai'rei over here. They mated with mortals such as humans, became Vastaya, then they kind of branch off into these tribes over here. And you can see a bunch of different tribes, including Ahri on the left, who's a pretty popular character. The Railu, the Marai, the Makara. And it's interesting that the farther you get from the main Vastayashai'rei human combination, the more diluted the bloodline gets. And you could see that in the way they look. Like the Marai you'll see later, they're freaking merfolk. They really look like merfolk. Compared to Ahri, who's kind of getting distant, right? Over here, she looks a little bit more human. So the more they dilute that bloodline, the more human they look. You can see Ahri here. And I don't think Nami is in, that's Ahri. And I don't think Nami is in here. Oh, she is. Yeah, compare that to Nami. Nami is much closer. Nami would be down here, the Marai, Tribes of the Sea. Look how close that is to the split, humans Vastayashai'rei. And that's probably because they just interact less with mortals. There's less chances to mate. And so you have a character like Nami who looks very much, probably closer to what they used to be. And she probably lives a much longer life than someone like Ahri would, who the bloodline's been diluted a lot more, right? With Ahri, she's farther in. She's had more generations of humans mixing with Vastayashai'rei, and that's why she has a more human look to her. The intermingling diluted the Vastayashai'rei immense power. The Vastaya inherited a fraction of their ancestors' shapeshifting prowess and longevity, but they were no longer the deathless warriors of the Titan War. They did, however, retain an innate connection to the spiritual magic of Runeterra, a bond that remains the core of their identity. This origin contains a tragic paradox at the heart of the modern Vastayan condition. The race was born from a harmonious union between magically ascended humans, the Vastayashai'rei, and the mortals they lived alongside, yet a significant conflict for contemporary Vastaya, exemplified by revolutionaries like Xayah, is a deep-seated animosity towards humans for disrupting the wild magic the Vastaya need to survive. So naturally, the Vastaya, they become weaker as you kind of destroy their forests and whatnot, and so there are these characters, Xayah and Rakan. They kind of rise up to battle and fight for the Vastaya place in Runeterra. You got to realize this with the Vastaya, they're becoming weaker over time, and so they're really fighting for their home in a way. And you'll see more of that in future stories as well, but this is one of them, Xayah and Rakan. So this struggle is not a simple race war. Since the Vastayashai'rei were human first and chose to create the Vastaya through unions with humans, humanity is a foundational component of the Vastayan lineage. Therefore, the actions of the Vastaya separatists are in essence a war against a part of their own heritage. Their fight to preserve the magic their human ancestors taught them to wield against the descendants of the people their Vastayashai'rei ancestors embraced, frames their struggle as an internal identity crisis. This is a great image. You can see a couple of Vastaya up here on this tree. You can see some humans marching below. The human problem is inextricably a Vastayan problem, a desperate attempt to define who they are in a world that has forgotten their shared history. And the world has really forgotten a lot about the Vastaya. After all, we don't even know the Titan War. Ionia itself doesn't do a great job documenting its history. Places like Piltover and Zaun, right, have their history documented. Noxus created a whole timeline of Runeterra. The Freljord, they have like these huge halls of tablets where they document history. Demasia's probably got a library. Bilgewater, probably not the best for documenting history, but Ishtal for sure's got like a library. Shurima has a library that we know of that Nasus guards. I'm sure Targon has some history. Ionia is probably one of the worst places for documenting history. They don't freaking write down anything. Part of the reason we don't know anything about the Titan War is because no one documented this stuff. And that could be just because it's a long time ago, but even today, Ionians just, their stories are told. There are tribes in the Freljord who tell through word of mouth, but Ionia, everything's through the word of mouth. The living tapestry, a Vastayan family tree. As the threat of the Titans faded, the power of the individual Vastayashai'rei waned, and their descendants, the Vastaya, spread out from Ionia, forming distinct tribes and cultures across Runeterra. This diaspora led to incredible diversity seen in the Vastayan people today. So you can see there's Vastaya all over Runeterra. This one's in Targon in the second to last on the right. That's a Marai on the right side. Different Vastaya all over Runeterra. The founding of the tribes. The legacy of the Titan War heroes was not forgotten. So this is a card from Legends of Runeterra. It's Mistfall, and you can see remnants of the Titan War again here. See that big face in the background? That's remnants of the Titan War. And all the swords again. So anywhere you see these Titans, they're falling on the ground, they're dead, but there's all these massive swords around them, most likely weapons of the Vastayashai'rei. And Mistfall is sacred ground. This is what the card reads. The swords at the site have been here for centuries, and it is my belief that any blade left there left here with a poem on its hilt, will invite the spirits of lost wielders to imbue it with their blessing. And that's from Disciple of Doran, and it's a handwritten scroll. Many new tribes adopted the names of the legendary Vastayashai'rei who had saved the world, creating a direct link of culture and spiritual inheritance. The tales of noble Kiilash, dutiful Chir, cunning Lhotlan, and countless more besides became the founding myths for entire peoples. So those are actually tribes, right? They kind of took on the name Railu, Makara. There most likely was a Vastayashai'rei called Marai. There was a most likely of a Vastai called Kiilash, right? These were all Vastayan tribes, Xayah. They kind of took on the name of that person as their name of their tribe. Many new tribes adopted the names. Over thousands of years, each tribe adapted to its environment, and their physical forms evolved to reflect their surroundings and the animalistic traits of their ancestors. This, combined with their reliance on wild magic, led the Vastaya to settle only in regions where the connections to the spirit realm remained strong. The greatest source of knowledge around Vastaya is contained in Edward Santagilo's Vastaya Field Journal. And this is his journal. We actually have an image of it. And this is what it says. Chimerans with human blood, spiritual magic from an ancient race. In my humble inquiries, I have stumbled upon far greater questions. This shall make for quite the chronicle, a bestseller in fact. Edward Santagilo, gentleman of Piltover, explorer of Ionia, who discovered the wondrous Vastaya in the wilds of Ionia. I can already hear them clamoring for the first edition. The three peoples, a broad classification. Vastayan tribes can be broadly categorized into three main classifications based on their physiology and habitat. Tribes of the land, the sea, and the sky. You can see here, we have tribes of the sea on the right. Then you have tribes of the land, landwalker tribes, and then in the back, tribes of the sky, and those branch off at the top. The sea dwellers, tribes like the Marai, are amphibious or aquatic, with mermaic features like tails and fins. There's one example, that's Nami. Sky dwellers defined by avian characteristics such as the Xayah tribe. There's actually, I can't even get you guys an image. There's no champions of the sky dwellers. There's no image of the sky dwellers. I think that it's going to have to take like the Riot MMO for us to finally see these sky dwellers in the game, because they're not in League of Legends, and there's none in Legends of Runeterra. There's the Landwalkers, which is the largest and most varied classification, encompassing chimeric forms based on, felineness, Kiilash, and Vasani. So there's Ahri. There's also the Primate, the Shamon, which are also Landwalker tribes, and there's the Avian Lhotlan, which are also considered Landwalker tribes, but they do have an avian look to them with the feathers and whatnot, but they are Landwalkers. And the Reptiles, another Landwalker tribe, the Oovi-Kat. The following table provides an overview of the most well-documented Vastayan tribes. So I listed them all here. See some Sea Dwellers. You can see Landwalkers, just how many there are, and then just the one Sky Dweller. Vastaya is not a monolithic term. It describes a spectrum of beings whose connection to their progenitors varies significantly, creating a gradient of magical purity and power. The Oovi-Kat tribe, for instance, remained isolated and mingled far less with humans. As a result, their bloodline is almost completely undiluted, closer to the original Vastayashai'rei. This purity manifests in phenomenal magical abilities. So you can see she looks way more Vastaya, way more like animalistic. The more animalistic a creature looks, compare that to Ahri, whose bloodline is actually quite diluted. Even Ahri almost diluted her bloodline further in her story. I think I remember Netcrit saying, Nami power level in the lore is insanely high, as she is the closest to Vastaya original race. She could be. I don't know if she's the closest to Vastayan's original race, but because she definitely does have some human features to her, but she can shapeshift, which shows a lot. Oh wait, Nami. You're saying Nami. Nami is the most powerful Vastaya. Maybe. I would say maybe. Nami definitely seems very powerful. She can't shapeshift, but I was thinking about Neeko. Is Neeko in here? I thought you were talking about her. I was like, I don't know if Neeko is the most powerful Vastaya. Who would be the most powerful Vastaya? Yeah, Neeko's not in here. If I had to pick one to be the most powerful, I would say Nami is very likely the most powerful Vastaya. Neeko, the last Oovi-Kat, possesses exceedingly potent shapeshifting powers. Neeko would be another one that would be up there in terms of power level, allowing her to mimic almost any living creature with perfection other Vastaya cannot achieve. So Neeko definitely could be one of the most powerful Vastaya as well. In contrast, most other Vastayan tribes have more fixed chimeric forms. Rengar is always feline, Nami is always mermatic. Their shapeshifting is a distinct echo of their ancestors' abilities. At the furthest end of the spectrum are individuals with only a trace amount of Vastayan blood, like Nidali, who possesses some shapeshifting ability, but are not considered true Vastaya. So like eventually it gets so diluted that you almost look human with a little bit of magic in you. The genetic gradient suggests the potential social hierarchy with the Vastayan culture, where tribes like the Oovi-Kat might have be revered for the purity, adding another layer of complexity to their struggle for identity. The stories of Vastayan champions illustrate the culture, struggle, and existential questions facing their race. The Lhotlan rebels Xayah and Rakan. The tale of Xayah and Rakan is the quintessential narrative of the modern Vastayan conflict. As members of the Lhotlan tribe, they wage a revolutionary war to reclaim their ancestral homelands in Ionia from humans. So that's their whole goal, is they feel like they need to reclaim their homelands in a way of Ionia, from the people of Ionia, from the humans at least. Their struggle is born from an existential threat. Human settlements and technology disrupt the natural flow of wild magic. For Vastaya, who require this magic to thrive and reproduce, and I'm going to get into this is really important. Vastaya require the magic of the natural flow and the wild magic of the world to thrive and reproduce. This disruption is a slow poison, causing their vitality to fade. Literally, they'll go extinct. We see how desperate the Vastaya are to reclaim their homelands in the book Mbessa Chosen of the Wolf. If you ever read Mbessa Chosen of the Wolf, we see literally how desperate the Vastaya are to reclaim their homeland, the natural flow, the wild magic, because they'll literally freaking go extinct if we do it. And humans naturally very averse to magic. Well, not averse to magic, but averse to freaking nature. I'll say that. After Mbessa captures the Ionian fortress of Kumangra, that is right here. Mbessa, this is before the events of Arcane. Mbessa goes and captures the fortress of Kumangra. Kumangra was being run by a group of Ionians. They left Ionia a long time ago. We're talking about generations. And they held the fortress of Kumangra, and they did trade with Piltover and Zaun. Mbessa travels from Noxus to Kumangra to take this place for Noxus, because Noxus is tired of paying Piltover and Zaun a tilth or whatever for trade. Basically, Noxus, let's say they want to trade with Shurima, or they want to trade with Targon. By boat, Noxus has to come down here, circle around, go through Piltover and Zaun, and then they can come out here to Targon and Shurima. They could also, you could say maybe take it by land and then cross by sea. That's a lot more work. Traveling by sea is way faster. And so Noxus wants to take Kumangra for itself so that they can have a port down here. But after Mbessa captures the Ionian fortress in Kumangra, she finds a group of Vastayan prisoners. The prisoner explains that the human inhabitants of Ionia are improperly using magic and defiling the natural forests with their intervention. This destruction directly weakens the Vastaya. In exchange for Noxian help in driving the human Ionians out of the Kumangra forest, the Vastaya offers Mbessa a strategic ocean entry point into Ionia. That's literally how the first Noxian Ionian invasion happens, is because the Vastaya down here in Kumangra are so pissed that the humans, the Ionians, have destroyed the forest so much that it's now affecting their vitality and their life, and they're becoming weaker, that they help Noxus find a way into Ionia. Noxus has historically struggled to get into Ionia, and this is during the time of Borum Darkwill. But then, okay, now they find a way through the Vastaya from Kumangra. Another example we see is Xayah and Rakan. These two characters I've been talking to you guys about. Xayah, the Violent Raven, is the heart of the rebellion, a freedom fighter driven by loss. She watched as treaties with the mortals were consistently broken, driving the Lhotlan from their homes. Her crusade began when she returned to find her entire tribe had vanished, a disappearance linked to shadow magic corrupting a nearby temple. Rakan, the Charmer, is the greatest battle dancer in Lhotlan history. He found a deeper purpose after meeting Xayah, and his charismatic fighting style complements her lethal precision. Together they represent a desperate struggle for cultural preservation. Literally, somehow, her whole tribe disappeared from shadow magic, and who do we know that does a lot of shadow magic in Ionia? There's only one guy we know who messes with shadow magic in Ionia, and that's Zed. Zed, who has his own story going on. But we can see something here, which is Xayah and Rakan. And literally titled, by the way, Wild Magic. There's Zed. A couple of his followers. Xayah hits him with a feather. Rakan comes. Don't forget he's like a dancer. I always thought this was an awesome cinematic. Does Kayn count as shadow magic? Well, yeah, but he learned it from Zed. Zed's the progenitor of all this shadow magic stuff in Ionia. Very interesting. Man, it's such an awesome cinematic. I can't tell if I'm watching it premiere for you guys. Isn't the lore so much better when you know it, guys? Isn't like every cinematic feel a little bit better when you actually know the history behind it? The fact that Xayah's tribe was wiped out by shadow magic. This guy with his history was just like a dancer, but then, you know, he joined Xayah, found like a calling. They're trying to find their place and preserve their homeland. Literally has to do with their vitality. Look how like the whole forest is restored after they stop him. Zed's up to no good. That's how the force, like we're talking about Avatar level stuff, guys. I just feel like the lore is, everything becomes so much better once you know the lore. Even if you don't care about the lore at all, like you really could care less, a Riot MMO will be better and you'll enjoy it more if you know the lore. If you're aware, like that cinematic, to someone who knows nothing of the lore, they're like, wow, that was a cool fight. They're just showing Xayah and Rakan go against Zed. Like, it's just something cool to see. But then when you know it, it's like, oh, there's so much history and backstory here and like why they're there fighting Zed and why the forest is being restored. It makes so much more sense. I need me a ninja from Ionia that can stealth for my PvP character. And yeah, I mean, that's going to happen. I think you're going to get a stealthy character everywhere. You're talking about like a rogue style character. I feel like Ionia is a hot spot for that. So you'll get one. I never noticed this the first time watching, but Xayah uses her E there when breaking the ceiling. Pretty cool attention, you know, to detail. Yeah, Riot always does that. They're always using like the character abilities and showing you them, but in how they actually use them, not just in game, you know, with a button, like how it actually plays out. I think it's a great cinematic and it ties so much into the lore in such like a short one. The Kiilash pride stalker Rengar. In the jungles of Shurima and Ixtal resides Rengar, a fearsome trophy hunter of the Kiilash tribe. That's we're talking about over here. Now we're in Shurima and Ixtal, this kind of area. He kind of bounces between them. The Kiilash built society upon the honor of the hunt. Rengar's story is one of triumph over perceived weakness. Born the runt of the chieftain's litter, he was ignored and expected to perish. Instead, he fled and taught himself to hunt, pushing his will to its limits. He returned as a master predator, eventually slaying his own father to become the new chieftain. Yet Rengar found tribal acceptance meant little. The true prize was the thrill of the pursuit. He abandoned his title and now scours the world for the most dangerous prey. His ultimate goal being the void creature Kha'Zix, the beast that took his eye. Rengar's journey showcases a culture where strength and self-reliance are the ultimate virtues. And you can see a little bit of Rengar in this cinematic. Look at this. It's one thing, she's like literally hunting. It's like the hunter becomes the hunted here. Look at that, you got Graves down here. Katarina's clearly hunting Graves, and it zooms out again. Oh, Rengar's hunting the hunter. I thought that was really cool. This isn't so much lore based as it is was just cool cinematic. Yeah, there's Ahri, pretty cool shot of Ahri as well. But yeah, there's a cool cinematic. You can see Rengar in it. That doesn't really have anything to do with the lore or anything like that. It's just cool to see. Cool to see him in there. The Shimon Monkey King, Wukong. Wukong, a Vastayan trickster from the primates like Shimon tribe, offers a path of integrity and self-improvement. The Shimon believe life is an evolutionary climb to wisdom, and the impulsive Wukong was cast out for his pranks. He was eventually humbled by the human warrior Master Yi, the last practitioner of the martial art of Wuzhu. Master Yi, I'm pretty sure, is like the most powerful human in Runeterra. Wukong begged to become his student, and through Yi's teachings, he learned to channel his recklessness into a lethally swift fighting style. Wukong's partnership with a human mentor stands in opposition to Xayah's separatist ideology. His story demonstrates that strength can be found by embracing new disciplines and forming bonds with those outside their own kind. So a completely different take. The Shimon Monkey King Wukong is like kind of working with the humans in a lot of ways, partnering with the good ones. Then there's Nami. Nami's quest is one of desperate diplomacy, driven by a cosmic threat. So actually I show it here. Her people, the Marai, are the mermatic tribe of sea-dwelling Vastaya living west of Mount Targon. The Marai's existence is threatened by a rift in the ocean, a gateway from which the life-exterminating darkness of the void seeks to emerge. Here's what you have to remember about the Marai territory, which I'm sure an expansion, whenever we have the Mount Targon expansion, which I don't think it's going to come at launch, we're definitely going to have either a patch or a whole expansion on the Marai territory. And the reason you're having this void stuff happen in the Marai territory is that the void is definitely spreading through the ocean along with on land. And it has to do with the story of Acathia. I have multiple videos on Acathia and the Void War and how that all happened. But this place is void infested. And you better believe the void is spreading through the ocean as well on land. And you have the Lavender Sea, which is all underground in Shurima. But it's also affecting over here the Vastaya and the Marai territory. Canonical sources consistently refer to the tribe as the Marai. Their existence is threatened by a rift in the ocean, a gateway from which the life-exterminating darkness of the void seeks to emerge. This is her story. She literally swims down to the bottom of the ocean almost, and she finds the void. She's like, is this death? Such wonders. And it's a story about like her tribe once had a huge battle with the void in the past. Our attempts to control the waters around them did not repel the monsters, and countless died. So tons of our people were wiped out by the void in the past. For centuries, the Marai have been protected by celestial moonstones. Their survival hinges on a ritual. Every 100 of years, a chosen tidecaller must retrieve an abyssal pearl from the void rift and trade it with a Targonian wanderer for a new moonstone. So someone goes down there, retrieves this moonstone, and they trade it with one of the Lunari in Targon. So the Lunari, that's like Diana and stuff. There's a couple of Lunari champions. So the Lunari champions need this moonstone, like a pearl. I'm sorry, they need this pearl, The Marai will go down, grab the pearl, and then they'll trade it with one of the Lunari. So there's Diana as a Lunari, Aphelios as a Lunari. They'll trade it with them for a moonstone, and the moonstone helps them combat the void. So she's going down there, she retrieves the abyssal pearl. When the chosen Tidecaller failed to return, the young Nami took it upon herself to brave the abyss. So there was a Tidecaller sent down there, and she went down there after them because they never returned, and they were freaking out. The whole tribe's freaking out at this point. She succeeded in retrieving the abyssal pearl and saves her people from the abyssal darkness, for now. The last Oovi-Kat, Neeko. Neeko's story is one of tragedy and optimism. She hails from the Oovi-Kat, a lost tribe from a remote island whose bloodline was almost purely descended from the original Vastayashai'rei. That's why I was saying Neeko also might be the most powerful Vastaya. They lived in harmony with the spirit realm, communicating through their spiritual essence, their Shuma, and this granted them unrivaled shapeshifting abilities. The existence was annihilated by a magical cataclysm. I think that was most likely the Rune Wars, leaving Neeko as the sole survivor. Despite her loss, Neeko's boundless curiosity has led her on a new quest to build a new tribe. This tribe will not be defined by bloodline, but by like-hearted souls. She welcomes anyone, human, Yordles, or Vastaya, who shares her dream of harmonious future. Neeko represents a potential future for the Vastaya built on inclusivity rather than ancient lineage. So her kind of goal is to, be like unify in a way with the humans, with mortals. The Lost and the Half-Blooded Ahri and Sett. The narratives of Ahri and Sett explore themes of identity and belonging. Ahri is the last known survivor of the Vasani, a tribe of nine-tailed fox-like Vastaya, wiped out by the Ruination. So there's a lot of Vastaya had a lot of problems. You have Neeko. Her tribe was wiped out, I think, by the Rune Wars. Then you have Ahri, who her tribe really had a lot of problems with the Ruination. And we explore that in the Rune King when she goes to see them in literally a library temple on the Shadow Isles. With no memories of her people, she lived as a wild predator, consuming the life essence and memories of mortals. This power became an addiction, and she saw herself as a monster. A tragic romance with a mortal artist, whom she accidentally killed, set her on a path to discover her origins and control her abilities. And that's where Ahri's story starts in Rune King.
100 years feels longer when you're alone.
You are more beautiful than any flower.
Please, leave me. My magic. I cannot control it.
I don't care. I am yours.
No. What am I? A monster.
Yeah, and that starts Ahri's journey into Rune King. So she loved this painter guy and she just consumed him, consumes his memories and his life essence basically, and kills him. And so Ahri wants to learn more about herself and her tribe and why she just did that. Ahri's journey is a quest of redemption and self-discovery. Sett, on the other hand, was born from a taboo union of an Ionian Vastaya and a Noxian human, making him an outcast. Ionians don't like Noxus. His mother's community expelled the family, and humans treated the half-beast child with contempt, especially after his pit fighter father abandoned him. Sett channeled a lifetime of rage into the fighting pits, becoming an undefeated sensation. He eventually seized control of the entire operation, transforming it into a criminal underworld. Sett's story is a powerful allegory for carving out a place of power by embracing the very identity that society tried to shame. A unifying theme emerges from all of these champions. The Vastaya are facing a species-wide crisis, a great dying. The Oovi-Kat are destroyed, the Vasani are extinct, the Lhotlan are fading, the Marai are one failed ritual away from being consumed by the void. Official Chronicle states no new Vastaya have been born in several mortal lifetimes, hundreds of years. This is an existential threat to their entire people. In this context, the champions become avatars for competing ideologies on how to save a dying race. Xayah's path is a violent rebellion. Nami's is desperate diplomacy. Neeko's radical inclusivity. Wukong's is assimilation. Rengar chosen isolation, while Sett opts to dominate the human system from within. The future of the Vastayan people really depends on which of these strategies proves successful. Beyond the known wilds, others, faces, and mistaken identities. While champions provide detailed portraits of Vastayan life, Other members of the race exist, and the diversity of life on Runeterra has led to frequent misidentification. A new face in the City of Progress, Lest from Arcane. The series Arcane is foundational canon for the League of Legends universe and introduced a new Vastayan character, Lest, an associate of Counselor Mel, Medarda, and Piltover. You can see this is Lest in Arcane. Very cool character. A lot of people are a fan of Lest. I think she was a very cool model for sure. But we see a lot of her. She uses her big ears to overhear things going on in Piltover. And I think we see another scene of her. That's a really good shot right here. Yeah. So this is definitely a Vastaya. No questions about that. Less's heritage is evident in her large fox-like ears, which grant her superhuman hearing. She can easily overhear a whisper conversation from behind a locked door. Her presence is significant. It confirms that Vastaya are not confined to the wilds, but can integrate into the heart of human civilization. That's it's very interesting that she's literally in Piltover, the City of Progress. Not much nature there. But she maybe doesn't care about the reproduction and that portion of it, or her power. She really doesn't have any powers, honestly. It doesn't seem like it, at least in the show. Her main power is that she can hear very well. Defining the boundaries, what Vastaya is not. The mention of Chirean from Arcane highlights a common confusion. Vastaya is not a catch-all for chimeric beings. It is a specific classification for a singular origin. So this character often gets confused. People say that, oh, that must be a Vastaya. That's a Chirean. They're bat-like people from Zon. They are the original Zonites. Before humans were Zon, the Chireans were there. They existed, and when the humans came down to Zon, they found the Chireans. That's separate. So the key distinction is lineage. A being is only Vastaya if they can trace their ancestry to the Vastayashai'rei. This heritage grants them innate connection to spiritual magic. The Chirean, a species of bat-like humanoids from Zon's deep caverns, do not share this origin. They are distinct, non-magical species that evolved separately from a seemingly native understanding of technology. The bat-like members of the Firelights in Arcane are Chireans, not lost tribe of Vastaya. You can see some Chirean images here. There's two species of Chireans. There's these little guys and the big ones. They're like two separate groups of Chireans, but they are both Chirean. You can see another image. These are all Chirean in Zon and Piltover. And he has no problem having children. That's another sign that he's not Vastayan, right? They're having children. Vastaya haven't had children in hundreds of years. I don't think they just discovered, like one guy just randomly popped out a kid all of a sudden. This principle applies to other races as well. Minotaurs such as Alistar are a separate and distinct people. Yordles, through magical and sometimes possessing animal-like features, are spirits from Bandle City. The term Vastaya is precise. It refers exclusively to the descendants of the Vastayashai'rei and their unions with humans. So these are not Vastaya. Minotaurs are separate. They're a separate species, just like Chirean are a separate species. The future of the first children, the Vastaya, as a playable race. The rich lore surrounding the Vastaya provides a foundation for the implementation as a playable race in Runeterra-based MMO. Their diverse tribes and struggle for survival offer a compelling framework for player identity and class design. Now I want to say this. Yordle, I think, will be playable. Humans will be playable. I think that it's definitely possible. I have a whole video on what's going to be playable and what isn't in the Riot MMO. I think if I had to pick three, it'd be human, Yordle, and Vastaya. And if they wanted to forego anything and then just do human, that's another option where you can only be a human. I think that's not great. I would like to see a little race variety. I think I have it here with my summary. We can just go down to the summary. Potential playable races. So I go through every single one. Vastaya, Yordles, I say, are likely. I say trolls and minotaurs and Chirean, I think, are other good candidates, as well as the augmented, and then I go through the unlikely. I think I put a table at the end, didn't I? No. Well, yeah, I think those are like the playable races that will come. So character creation, choosing your bloodline. The tribal system is a perfect model for a sub-race selection process. A player would choose a Vastayan race and then a tribal lineage, determining their appearance and granting unique passive abilities. The Kiilash, feline features bonus to stealth and tracking. Marai, I don't think you'll be able to play a Marai, but if they did have it where like somehow you have some kind of land walking legs, like you kind of Little Mermaid yourself in a way, You have aquatic features ability to breathe and move at full speed underwater, the Lhotlan and avian and feline traits, a brief increase in movement speed. The Shimon are primate-like features, so enhanced agility, maybe a climbing ability. And the half-Vastaya like Sett's lineage have subtle beastal traits, maybe a passive tied to resilience or rage. The class identity, magic, might, and mephisources. You can have like Vastaya support with a wide range of lore-rich class archetypes, many exclusive to specific tribes. So you have like the Tidecaller Marai, which has a healing caster manipulating ability. The Battle Dancer, a mobile melee damage class weaving elegant movements with arcane strikes. The Pride Stalker, which is a stealth, very much roguelike. And then you could, I don't think you're going to have an Oovi-Kat lineage only with the true shapeshifter, but you could build a class around that. And finally, the player journey, a world of conflict. A Vastayan player's journey would be rooted in the core conflict of their people. Starting experience, the journey could begin in a tribal enclave, a Kiilash hunting camp, or a Lhotlan grove. Initially, quests would thrust the player into the Vastayan struggle, defending their home from human encroachment or purifying corrupted wild magic. The central narrative and the overarching racial storyline would be a fight for survival. Players would be tasked with finding a solution to the magical infertility crisis threatening their race. This would involve uniting tribes, forging alliances, and confronting the forces causing the world's magic to fade, providing a powerful motivation for the player's entire journey.